Next on our lineup is the first panel discussion of this forum, focusing on executives' perspectives on the impact of digital transformation on customer excellence. This session will be moderated by the Head of Digital Transformation and Project Management at the BIBF, Mr. Ahmed Naeemi. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists. Business leader and former CEO of Lloyd's of London, Dame Inga Beale. Group Chief Executive at Trust International Insurance and Reinsurance Company, Trust Re, Mr. Talal Al-Zain. Group Insurance Manager, YBA Kanoo Group, Mr. Stefan Wagstaff. Vice Chairman, Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East and Africa Region, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Mr. Ali Moosa. General Manager, Bahrain National Life Assurance, BNL, Mrs. Enas Asiri. Welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us. Over to you, Ahmed.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very happy to be here, actually moderating a panel of very experienced and distinguished guests and panelists with us. I'm going to actually get to the point so that since we have only a few, like just about 40 minutes to talk about a various number of topics in digital transformation insurance, mainly focused on the customer excellence or customer experience aspect. But let me just say this. So if you have any questions, if you want to direct any questions, whether it's for Ms. Inga or any of the panelists, please send it through the chat or the Q&A, and I'm going to actually filter those questions and try to answer them as we ask the panelists as we go along. So just as a start, as the business guru Peter Drucker famously said, the purpose of a business is to create a customer. 6 decades after he said that sentence, a number of enormously successful CEOs have taken Drucker's principle to the max. Among them is Jeff Bezos from Amazon, Richard Branson from Virgin. Those and many other CEOs believe that creating customers and keeping them happy is at the center of their organizational success. So speaking of digital transformation, it has the potential to impact virtually every aspect of business. It's likely to have the most significant impact on customer experience. Unfortunately, digital transformation efforts at companies across the globe often aren't putting customers at the center of their activities. Instead, new technologies are being used to create operational efficiencies to reduce costs. While that's so important, too often the price companies pay for this narrow focus is frustrated customers struggling with poorly designed experiences. So saying all that, I'm going to actually direct the question to our panelist, Mr. Talal. Talking about customer experience journey, why does digital transformation matter, in your opinion? And do you actually agree with what I've actually mentioned earlier or not, about the focus of organizations are mostly on cutting costs, operational efficiencies, rather than focusing on the customer?
Ahmed, thank you very much. Of course, I would like to thank BIBF, Central Bank, and of course, BNH and BNI for hosting and sponsoring this event. Thank you very much for everybody. It's a great pleasure to be among the panelists that we have here. It was great to hear from Mr. Abdurrahman Bakr. Inga, of course, it was great speech. For me, Ahmed, I come from a banking background, so of course, I'm not even going to compete with Ali Moosa, because he's a special personality to me. But no, I spent years in banking, did different type of banking, commercial. Did investment banking over a period of about 30 years. And then I was fortunate, talking earlier about, I think Mr. Abdurrahman Bakr mentioned prolonging lifespan. For me, it's first of all, I got this the pleasure of really getting into a new career at an age of 60, which is what I used to read about, that eventually because of the prolonging of lifespan, we're going to be able to study more and we're going to be able to do at least 2 careers. Well, I'm definitely doing my second career. So I'm fortunate to be here. Of course, Inga said a very important point about insurance. To me, coming from banking into insurance, and I did commercial banking at the beginning, but still, I mean, of course, forgive me, Ali. I mean, banking, it is an important part of the economy. We understand how banking supports the economy and the growth. But to me, insurance is really a special financial space, because what we do in insurance actually does not only contribute but protects the economies, because when there is an incident, when there is a problem, when there is an event, crisis, the insurance companies would contribute to fixing these crises. So insurance business is very critical. Now, the only thing that I have noticed shifting from banking to insurance is that, unfortunately, the digital transformation within the insurance business or industry is way behind banking, if I may say that. Okay, so to me, transformation is important. Digital transportation, because even if I look at a research that was done by Ernst & Young, which was actually mentioned very briefly by Mr. Abdurrahman Al-Bakr, where it shows that maximum 14% of consumers, they were satisfied with the relationship or with the connection with the insurance. This is very low. Very low. And of course, I do understand, because coming from banking usually we do transact business on almost on a daily basis, while insurance, it's usually kept for the renewals, which is something that we need to change and to get closer to our customers. And that's where digitalization is very important, is to bring in your customer into the day-to-day relationship with our companies.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Talal. Mr. Talal, just as a question again to you, since you mentioned you've came from a banking sector and moved to the insurance, just briefly, do you see a major gap when it comes to the experience or the digital transformation basically in the banking compared to the insurance?
Ahmed, I do believe that there is a huge gap. Okay, but again, this gap can be shortened, quickly. It's a matter of really focusing on really long-term investing, okay, in technology. Okay, of course, realizing that ultimately us as leaders of companies, we do have to focus on sustainable revenues, but really digitalization can actually help us in improving on our revenues going forward by maintaining longer term relationships with our customers. So for me, in order for us, because it's not a matter of only talking about implementing technology. Insurance companies, what we need to do is we need to emphasize on agility, again, long-term technology investments, personalization, customization, and innovative services. Okay, these are the foundations of going forward. And of course, what Inga have said, the challenge, one of the main challenges is for us to have the right talent to deliver that. And the change in leadership, okay, to accept that it's time to move into digitalization as fast and as quickly as possible.
Got it. Thank you so much, Mr. Talal. Mr. Ali, as a global leader in the financial services, offering solutions to the world's most important corporations, government, and institutions. Now, Mr. Talal mentioned about the insurance sector being having a special financial space. Would you actually agree on that element or not? And if you do or not, can you also cite some of your developments that you're seeing over the past years till date? And how will this impact the way international financial firms will be serving their clients in the near future?
Thank you, Ahmed. It's a great honor for me to be here among exceptional leaders. Great to meet you, Talal, again. You definitely, somebody we all follow. And it's an honor again to be with you on this panel. Thanks to BIBF, Central Bank, and BNH as well. I'm very delighted, as I said. No doubt, Ahmed, let me start by saying, transformation towards digital is one of the most critical topic to many audience, I'm sure, and senior leaders. I know for a fact that we are blessed in Bahrain. CBB and His Excellency the Governor has made this topic as a key area and a key priority for CBB in issuing regulations and creating a safe environment for innovations and digital banking in Bahrain. To answer your question, Ahmed, I would start from two linked elements to why digital transformation matters for a global bank or local bank or any segment in the business, including insurance. I can't claim that I understand insurance well, but let me stick to the financial institution in general. So what matters, Ahmed, first, that customers in general are used to seamless user experience through interactions with the wider mobile economy. So we are all exposed to mobile, and we have seen how seamless, experience that we have with in transacting over mobile. So whether e-commerce, asset management, or buying music online, consumer expect a very smooth experience, which could be different in banking or insurance. For me, banks historically also lacked the ability in providing innovative solution, and this is an area, Ahmed, that fintech have upped their offering. So it's very difficult for us to move fast as startups and fintechs. Secondly, Ahmed, I think time has changed. I think Talal has, mentioned a few areas that, innovative solution and catching up is a priority, and it's a structural importance for banks. We are seeing the rise of digitally native generation today as the largest part of our customers. So we can't really ignore this, being global bank or local bank as well. Millennials, as we call them, accounts for over half of the world population today. This is even higher in the Middle East. So we are talking to a generation that are very savvy, very advanced. They understand digital and technology, more than any time in the past. And in our discussion in general, Ahmed, I would say with the clients today, we find ourselves that the discussions are more geared towards technology and innovation, which really shows the maturity and the tech readiness of the clients in the region. So we have to adopt. I'll stop here, Ahmed, but I can go on and on and on.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ali. But also focusing on one point you mentioned that startups are coming on board and it's very difficult to keep up with them. Is it difficult because of the bureaucracies that are available in the financial institutions? I know of some examples that, for example, some of those institutions, when they found out that it's very difficult to bring that change on board into application or something like that, or so, they've actually spun off a company, a separate company, and they treated it as a startup, and they've created a totally digital organization from that, or digital platform from that. Instead of going through all the bureaucracies in the mother company, they made that small startup or that company aside, and they've given it all the what it needs, from young talents, no bureaucratic elements and all that, and started succeeding. And we see it all across the board now. Would that business model work, you think, if many companies take that business model on board?
I think it's a mix of all, Ahmed. I don't think one model works for everyone. I think Inga mentioned that we need to attract the right talent, and it's true. You can't do the transformation with the same crowd it's a shift of mindset, right? So I think it's a mix of both. Banks have to innovate, have to create the right platform to make sure that we are agile and can adopt to the best technology to service our clients better. And I think, Ahmed, it's not just innovation. I think the banks has the capital, and they can do a lot of stuff where startups lack that. So if we mix both banking and startups together and create a much stronger partnership, I think that's the way forward to succeed.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Mr. Ali. Ms. Enas, your specialty is in life and medical insurance. Do you see similar development as what Mr. Ali and Mr. Talal explained earlier? Can you talk to us about development in your area when it comes to customer excellence and how you're going about it?
Sure. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Ahmed, for inviting me to your panel this morning. And yes, well, okay, so when we talk about customer experience, as you would understand, that it's influenced by so many factors. And, if I am to pick one, I would say simplified processes and the way a customer interacts with an organization is key to shaping their experience with a certain insurance company. Now, digitalization obviously facilitates this through many digital tools, and the one that I would like to talk about this morning is the big data and advanced analytics. There are so many tools, obviously, but if we were to choose one, which is highly relevant to what I do and the organization I come from, then this is definitely, it's key to what we do, and it's key to how we define or see the digital transformation. I saw, interestingly, one of the questions on the chat, they're asking that digital transformation is not really about replacing old technology with new ones, but it's about revisiting your business models and how you do things. So I completely agree with that, and it's definitely it's all about using the new technology to revisit the business models, to explore new ways of connecting with our customers, and to explore new ways of retaining our customers and keeping them happy. So going back to my point about big data, the importance of big data for us can be seen in how it enables us to optimize and automate existing processes within our organization throughout the entire value chain. So different functions, whether we're talking about sales and marketing, pricing and underwriting, claims management, or even when it comes to obviously creating innovative and new products. We always say information is power, and us as insurers, we have access to massive database. So what we do with that information, really, it is how we can improve our customer experience. So using predictive analytics and coupled with artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques, it's extremely powerful in increasing the accuracy of our projections as insurers, and it makes our pricing and decision making fast, accurate, fair, and hopefully more affordable to end users. Now, when you take that and, everybody now, I think almost everybody, I could say, so we all have, we joined this move towards wearing, putting on like wearable devices, fitness trackers, these things. So I come from a life and insurance health, from a life and health insurance background. So my example is just on that, just to convey the point. So now if we take this, all the data streams that are generated from these personal devices, right? And then, it gives us much more personalized information about the individuals or the potential clients we are targeting, about their individual lifestyle, their activity levels, their vital signs, sleeping patterns, eating habits, all these kind of information that is extremely important for us as health insurers and life insurers. So, using all of that with all the digital tools that I have mentioned, it enables us as insurers to not only customize the products and, come up with more innovative ideas, but also to be more precise in terms of the way we underwrite. It helps us improve our, responsive claims management. It simplifies how a potential client would apply for insurance because we have some information already, so we don't have to ask the obvious. And it also, most importantly, lays a foundation for usage-based insurance. We heard, I've been reading a lot on, the pay-as-you-go or pay-as-you-drive, but actually there is pay-as-you-live as well, because it just, we adjust premiums, let's say, based on your lifestyle. So the better lifestyle you lead, the better your premiums are. And in a similar manner, if the lifestyle is deteriorating, then potentially you're going to be penalized. So it's just that kind of interaction and keeping in touch with your customers is what I believe enhances that experience in general. And all of that is, using those digital tools at the background and making use of the information and the volume of information and data that we have as insurers.
Thank you so much, Ms. Enas. We've heard a lot about insurance companies or even banking companies that they are all digital and they have the customer-centric approach and they have the customer at the heart of it. But truly, when you actually go and you want to do a transaction, everybody talks about being the digital organization or digital firm, digital insurance company, digital bank, yet it's not actually true. When a customer goes in, there is so much obstacles that they actually face throughout the process. There is a lot of elements, a lot of issues that we actually as customers face. Stephen, in your 30 years of experience in the insurance sector across multiple countries, you're on both personal and commercial line of customers in insurance. How do you see that happening, basically, in terms of the check on the box? Let's say, how can I put that question? Basically, it is how we see the digital insurance companies. Normally, organizations have a sort of a mandate that we want to become digital, but it's not actually digital or true. It's just check on the box to say that you are digital. But when you actually do the process, it's a bit complicated.
Good morning, everybody. I think Dame Inga mentioned it a little earlier when she referred to legacy systems. And I think a lot of people already have an existing system in place, and they look to try and modify that or try and eke out add-ons, bolt-ons to their existing system. And that's really where they're coming at it from their point of view, rather than the customer's point of view. I think a startup, again, as was referred to earlier, is a little easier to start from a customer's point of view because they don't have a legacy system to work with. Clearly, a legacy system, there is a huge cost involved, implementation, and clearly all systems have a shelf life. So I think the existing companies at the moment are trying to utilize their existing platforms rather than set aside new digital transformation budgets. That's not the business as usual costs, but the new digital transformation, a separate allocation of funds to really develop that forward. I think whilst I'm here, if I may also mention that clearly with our panelists and with support from B&H, I do believe, having been here for 15 years, that B&H have been quite pioneers in digital transformation. They were one of the early companies that did set the online renewals. So I think they've really led the way. I think we've evolved, and I think we're evolving quicker now. But certainly B&H were one of the earlier pioneers on that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen. Ms. Inga, we've heard from you a lovely session, and there's so much questions to be asked, but let me just focus on one specific element. Give me a specific digital transformation effort that you actually led at Lloyd's that led to a better customer service or customer experience, let's say, overall.
Yes, and this was really about the acceptance of a risk. So if I think about the Lloyd's market is very heavily dependent on intermediaries. So the brokers are absolutely crucial. But what would happen is the brokers would walk in physically to the market with pieces of physical paper. They would go in, the underwriter would take a wet ink stamp, if they decided to accept some of that risk, they would take a wet ink stamp, stamp it on the piece of paper, sign it and put the percentage next to it, how much they wanted to accept of the risk. And then somebody would photocopy that, and then it would go off to a team to process. The broker, meantime, would eventually fill the piece of paper up, the slip as it's called, with all of these signatures, physically take it back to his office, and then they would enter it. Now, what we managed to do, and then sort of by the time the customer actually hears what's happened, I mean, who knows where it is, and everyone's entering the data at different points of time, so there's never one nice central record that's all up to date exactly at the same time. The critical thing that we did then was to introduce an electronic platform, which meant that when the broker, who could still physically meet the underwriter if they wanted to, COVID put a stop to that, obviously, but temporarily, one thinks, they could still come in and meet with the underwriter, but it was all digital. So the data was coming through digitally, and then if the underwriter wanted to accept it, they pressed the button. That meant that every single system was updated at exactly the same time, which of course is why some people are using blockchain so effectively, because it gives you one record for everyone to see at the same time of what's happening. And that was the critical thing. So no more delays about having to rekey or enter the data for the customer. They could see immediately it happened, you know, who was on risk and how much they'd got insurance cover for. And it was fascinating because I was approached in 2013 to do that. And the business, that was how it was being done 325 years earlier, when Lloyd's was launched in 1688. It was the same thing, pieces of paper with wet ink stamps and people signing. So it was well behind the times in terms of digitalization, but fundamentally it's about speed and accuracy for the customer.
Beautiful. Ms. Inga, a question from the audience. Will AI take over actuaries?
Well, they won't take over, but the jobs will be different. This is my view. So I started as an underwriter in the 80s, and I look at what the underwriter does now, and so many of the things that I did as an underwriter are now done by computers or AI, artificial intelligence, you know. But it's partly because we've got much more sophisticated, because we use much more data. But still today, albeit some of the products are being commoditized and can be absolutely done completely by computers, some of the products, the thought that goes into it, they still need humans. And even if you're an actuary, I would still encourage people to get young people to come and train to be an actuary. The computers and the AI will provide you with data that's pre-analyzed in some form, but there will still be decision making. And I've yet to really see some of that decision making being made by anyone other than a human at the moment. The simpler the business is, the more likely the machines will do it for us. But fundamentally, I think the jobs will just change. So the underwriter's job from the 80s is now very different, but the underwriters still exist. And it's very interesting because one of the things that we were doing with the modernization of Lloyd's, the threat was particularly, the threat of modernizing was particularly felt by actually the new generation of talent, because they were coming in and they were starting out on their career. Whereas I thought they'd be the most hungry for the modernization. They were actually the most fearful because they said, I've just started and now you're going to put me out of work. So what we did was we engaged them in designing the jobs of the future using all the technology. And importantly, then we reskilled them. So digital skills became very much more important as part of the training and an analytical skill. But yeah.
That's one of the topics we want to talk about, but let me ask again a question for the panelists. It's from the attendees. How do you create a balance between operational efficiency and customer satisfaction while transforming digitally? And do you believe one of the two is a higher priority than the other? Anyone from the panelists, if you can answer, go ahead. Mr. Ali, Mr. Talal, Enas, Stephen.
I can try, Ahmed, if I understand the question correctly. I mean, in generic, and I think operation is a major area of change because it deals with a lot of manual and human intervention. So really, if we want to make a seamless process and have a better experience, client experience and impact, I think operation is the right place to start. It's very clear, Ahmed. I think for me, embracing digital automation, being operation or frontline or back processes, embracing digital in all these areas, including operation that you mentioned, is a key differentiator between success and failure. And I always say internally here and in public that Ahmed, I think there is advantage for the first mover because we have seen two reactions. We have seen technology is not cheap, and some business leaders, they think twice about spending that money either in acquiring a new business or bringing more transformation, including operation to enhance customers' experience. So because it's not cheap, you see some business leaders take the approach that let's wait and see. And in my mind, Ahmed, I don't think that's the right approach. I think customers, to your question, go to the best in the market who provide digital and technology, and the first mover in spending to automate and bring a new digital solution will gain for sure. I think operation, as I said, during pandemic, it was demonstrated that we are faced in shifting from, working from home arrangements and being online versus offline. So I think that change as well has proven that sustaining operational resiliency during lockdown, during working remotely is a key at the time of disruptions. So client needs to see resiliency and ongoing operation, especially at the time of challenge. I don't know if I answered exactly your question, but I really wanted to link, the mindset of the business leaders in bringing automation will safeguard, the core business, financial business, and retaining the customers.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Ali.
If I may, Ahmed, if I can just add one thing here. Again, if I understand of course, forgive me if I didn't understand the question correctly, but to me, customer satisfaction, comes from two angles. One is efficiency in delivering the service, and second, cost. And I do believe that the digitalization would deliver both of these aspects, because what it does on the efficiency, Enas has said it, that you end up with collecting enough data, okay, that actually improves your pricing and improves your ability to deliver a service. And then with better digital transformation, we would be able to cut, some of the middle people organizations in the circle right now. Of course, I'm not saying that for example brokers will disappear, not at all. I think the role of brokers would have to be transformed into a more from an advisory point of view. But I do think they are related, the investments and operations, and they're one the same.
Got it. So saying all that, when we focus on customer experience, we face a lot of executive level obstacles. I know that business leaders recognize the importance of investing in technology and focus on customer experience, but in many instances, we face a lot of executive level obstacles when it comes to moving forward. What's your take on that, Mr. Stephen, Enas, Ms. Inga?
Certainly, if I can just comment in terms of some of the challenges, I mean, cost is always going to come back to the forefront, really. There's a cost of designing, installing, choosing a new system, the cost of implementing it, the cost of running it, new licenses, and then, as I said earlier, it has a shelf life. But I think some of the challenges that they might face, or that could be overlooked when looking at a new system or starting this journey, is really just neglecting or not acting on customer feedback. They would ignore customer data. Enas referred to big data before, but focus groups, information that comes from those focus groups, and really setting that whole system up based around the customer first, as opposed to what they choose and what they believe is the right way forward. And I think the other issue is sometimes fully automating a customer service operation is also not advantageous. We've seen examples where we've moved to AI bots and you start a web chat, and sometimes that can be extremely frustrating. I think anybody who's got a system that, after a couple of minutes, if the machine learning is saying, hang on, this is not really working very well, the opportunity, would you like to now be transferred to a real person? I think is also quite a good solution, because spending 20 minutes on an AI bot and getting nowhere is extremely frustrating. So I think that really is some of the challenges that most of the leaders would face.
Yeah, and if I can just add something, because this was really intriguing to me when I arrived at Lloyd's. Why didn't all these people want to modernize, particularly when it was going to potentially bring new business in, do something better for the customer? And after all the conversations I had, to me, it came down to this threat. They had a comfortable life. They knew what they were doing. They were in control. They'd reached a certain position in the company. Their life was ordered, and this was going to come and be a big threat to them. And that was what we had to overcome. And we had to get them to be part of it. And then sort of, as I said, design the future that they were then going to be part of.
Let me just ask that because we have a short amount of time. Who should be in charge of customer experience in the organization? We talk a lot about customer experience and that the customer comes first, but who should be in charge of that? Who should look at everything to do with customers and bring it to light? We've heard about digital transformation departments that got created in the last few years. Would customer experience be coming under a digital transformation department, or it has its own autonomous department? Digital transformation comes under it. Just I want to hear your views on that.
I'll try to answer that, Ahmed. In my opinion, and all the literature and research we've been reading before, companies start their digital transformation journey, it is something that, in my opinion, does not fall under a certain function. It is something that requires really the collaboration of, across business units. All these walls that, there's, the barriers that are slightly even more, let's say, they're stronger between some functions. For example, like, risk and compliance in one side, and then you have like, the digital teams and underwriting and claims like on another side. So the communication across all these business units, it must be facilitated, and all these barriers must actually be broken for this to work out and to succeed.
Okay. Sally, what's your take on that from me?
No, Ahmed, I think this is a very critical question, and sometimes senior executive, they don't want to deal with customers' experience or complaints, which is a big mistake in my view. I think what is really important and fundamentally important for any company to be successful is to have a full visibility of clients' complaints. And I think the way forward is to empowering. I mean, no matter which level and who should deal with customer satisfaction, but I think whoever is dealing with that, element has to be empowered to make a quick decision. And most companies today are decentralizing their decision making when it comes to client satisfaction. And I think also using technology in supporting clients and promoting and guiding the customers to the vendor policies and the company policies is very, very key. Customers today, Ahmed, they don't want to wait on switchboard. They don't want to call the company to find an answer. They want to go to a website. They want to have access to the right data and information online without having to wait. And I think that's a key differentiator in dealing with customer satisfaction.
Ms. Inga, what's your take on that from Lloyd's perspective or the national insurance perspective?
Actually, I'm not necessarily going to give it from a Lloyd's perspective, but I will recall much earlier in my career when the company I worked for introduced NPS, Net Promoter Score, and I'm probably talking in the early 2000s, so when it was quite new to companies. And that was what really changed the culture, which meant everybody was focused on the customer outcome. Even this, the CFO wasn't just looking at the bottom line. They were focused on that. And importantly, it impacted your remuneration. So the senior leaders were impacted by that score, meaningfully impacted. And the customers were giving the feedback back, which meant that they were having an impact on what you were going to get as your bonus that year. And that really changed the culture, which meant the entire organization focused on the customer, because that's what I think it has to be.
Beautiful. So an answer from anyone, also yourself or anyone else, just right to the point. Should we have a customer experience department or not?
If I can just say, I think some companies do. I think some of the panelists have already mentioned that it should be at the forefront of every single department and every decision. If you're making a change to a particular process that affects the customer, that question needs to be asked at the time of making that change. And then the next question, if you're making that change, is how is that then communicated to the customer? So
Stephen, we mentioned a lot about that, but we don't see it happening, unfortunately.
I think the communication to the customer is then where a lot of companies struggle. I do see certain companies that actually do have a customer experience team, and they are really the glue that pulls everything together. But as Mr. Enas said, it really should be embedded within each and every department and be at the forefront of each person's decision making.
Beautiful.
Can I, Ahmed, just add one thing? To me, whatever company you have, whatever industry you're in, you can have the best service or the best product. If you don't have good customers, you're not going to succeed. So to me, who's responsible, who should oversee, it is the top senior people. That's the focus. And customers, ultimately, they want to see organizations that they deal with appreciate them by getting a senior appreciation or focus.
Perfect. I have a lot of questions. A lot of people are asking a lot of questions, but I'll ask one last question just before we end, because we are reaching the end of the panel time. When we talk about customer excellence or customer experience, as we explained, what are the skill sets that you look into individuals when you are recently hiring or bringing on board?
Ahmed, if I can just add one comment before I answer this question, because here comes the power of API integration. I think understanding the consumer patterns before a problem happen and changing your offering or changing your service is the power of data, which I think we need to implement and trigger an understanding of your customers' behavior before even they complain. And I think using the API again as an integrated tools to provide your customers with quick access to data or information that they need is the future. I don't think it's about the human anymore. It's about technology and API.
Beautiful. So what's the skill sets that we should look for when we are hiring individuals that will deal with customers or with data?
Hire more data-driven talent.
Okay. Mr. Talal?
To me, I believe it's a combination of, it is you need the technical side, but as I think Stefan have said it earlier, you cannot eliminate also human capability, touch into satisfying your customer. It has to be a combination of.
Ms. Enas?
I agree with Mr. Talal, and I do not think at all that we are looking only at the technical side of this. I think that we would be looking for people who are very strong on their communication skills, on their creative skills, thinking outside the box, and being quite proactive as well as reactive quite quickly to the changing environment that we are operating in.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Inga, you wanted to say something?
No, my response is hire people who reflect your customers, because that's what you need. You need to have people who understand exactly what the customers are all about.
Beautiful. Mr. Stephen?
Yeah, I would agree. Certainly when I was at AXA, one of the first questions I would ask is, when we were hiring somebody, is, do you have a car? Who is it insured with? What was your experience like? So it was certainly part of my process when hiring 10, 15 years ago.
Beautiful. Great. So we've nearly reached to the end of the session. Actually, we're a bit over time. Just one last word or anything that you want to mention to conclude the panel. I'll just give you briefly a few seconds each one if you want to just conclude this session with a statement. Miss Inga, we start with you.
I just want to say we do need to think disruptively, which means you need to hire some disruptive talent.
Thank you. Mr. Talal?
Just real quick, I read a quote really quick, if I can repeat that. It says, no one knows what the perfect new business models are, because it has not been fully articulated or proven. To find sustainable revenues, firms will need to learn fast, fail fast, and partner as needed.
Beautiful. Mr. Ali?
I would say companies need to create more agile structure and embrace technology and automation. I think that's the key for success.
Great. Ms. Enas?
I think what I would choose to say is that digital transformation is definitely a buzzword that's been overused, by all of us recently. And it means many things, many different things to many different people. So whatever it means to different people and different organizations, the bottom line is that every firm, every company has to join the move. One way or another, digital transformation has to be, the first steps must be taken by all firms around the world.
Perfect. Mr. Stephen?
Yeah, I think every organization needs to have a digital transformation plan. And it's key and paramount that that plan is shared internally amongst its employees so that each of their employees understands the journey that the company is looking to be taken on.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to thank the distinguished panelists for sharing wealth of knowledge and experiences that they have. I actually benefit a lot from it, and I'm sure that the attendees as well. Thank you so much once again, and I hope the audience and the attendees will benefit from the range of sessions that we have throughout the day from the other sessions that are coming up. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shukran, barakallah feek.
Thank you so much. Digitalization, agility, and customization as the foundation of customer experience and elevation. Amazing insight there on customer excellence. Thank you, Ahmed, for moderating this panel discussion, and thanks to our esteemed panelists on shedding light on digital transformation across different industries. And now we move on with our agenda. It's time for a short break. See you back at 10:45.